Well, we talked about the classic / golden era. Man, I'm sure Logan will keep doing well and will continue making great videos, right? Right? Oh boy, let's just talk about the junior era. This era begins with Bowser Jr.'s Macaroni, where Jr. is a whiny little brat. Yeah, that's going to be a common pattern. The only good news about this very first video is that Jr. gets something at least resembling a punishment. That part won't be a common trend though. This era spans all the way from that video to Mario the Babysitter. Also, this video is called the Junior Era for a reason. But before we talk about that, let's quickly talk about some sub-eras for a little bit. Now, the reason I split this between the classic and junior era was because these last two Black Yoshi and the Birds episodes weren't on the outskirts of the junior era or something. No, these were fairly well embedded into the junior era, especially episode 7. Episode 6 was of similar quality to the other episodes, but episode 7... is it just me, or did it feel kinda rushed? The good news is that the effects were back and better than ever, but that's about it. The series seemed to come to such a rushed conclusion, probably in preparation for the next Black Yoshi series, Black Yoshi's Family, which never came to be! This is in part because Logan kept saying that he needed the right brand of red Yoshi plush, which he eventually did find. But it's also because of the not breathe of series videos. Now, this one will have its own separate video reviewing the series, so I won't say much here. All I will say is that this was a pretty decent series, although it kinda was all over the place at times. This series had its ups and downs, but the concept was certainly unique, and the effects were actually really well done most of the time. The main problem is a couple of things. First of all, in episode 6, Toad basically undoes a bunch of Luigi's progress. Yeah, that wasn't annoying at all. And in some areas, how the ghosts work is kinda just inconsistent. It's annoying at times. The series is still decent in my opinion, but not the best. Oh, and we got to episode 8, got left on to be continued, and never finished the series. You know, it might be finished though, after a small 4-year hiatus. Yeah, that's all. That's going to become a pattern, by the way. What do I mean? Well, you'll see in a minute. This series is one of the ones that was actually completed. This series, while not the best ever, was still pretty decent. It was funny most of the time. I liked how the classroom setting worked, especially with the characters. This was also the introduction to some recurring characters, like Cody, who was extremely nerdy and a far cry from how he is now. How times change. Also, the best character in this series has to be Principal Steinbeck. Yeah, I've talked about what I think about Lavelle as a person, but man, he's a great actor. I'll give him that. I also liked how this series concluded. How Junior was able to pass by means of a loophole was really funny to me. My only gripe has to be the secondary ending, which was Bowser Jr.'s summer vacation. You can tell this is the actual ending, despite not being labeled a summer school video, since it picks up immediately where the summer school series ended. I'll talk about more of the other Junior videos later, but now we get to move on to... oh boy. Another Mario and Luigi Stupid Dumb Adventure season. This is bound to be good, right? Well, let's talk about that. Don't get me wrong, the concept is unique, with Mario basically hopping between dimensions, but due to this, the overlying plot is basically tossed aside for what is essentially much smaller stories and skits in each dimension. And this is where the whole thing falls apart. There is no real big story like Season 2, and to a lesser extent, Season 1, since Mario's jumping between dimensions so quickly that there's virtually no focus. The whole thing feels like a bunch of unrelated episodes very loosely tied together, with Mario happening to jump into a dimension. The only real overarching story this season is Mario trying to get back to his dimension. But wait, why? If he didn't travel back to the past, that means once Mario gets to his own dimension, which would be in the present, that means most of Mario's friends in his original dimension are still gone. I think the concept for this season was unique, but ultimately fell flat. Oh, also, this is another series that was left on a cliffhanger for 4 years! This one was unique as well. The plot is simple. Chef Pee-Pee quits being Bowser's chef after he gets fed up one too many times. And so Chef Pee-Pee goes out finding and working at several different jobs. Some of these episodes are better than others, of course, with episodes 2, 4, and 5 really being highlights in my opinion, and episodes 1 and 3 being the worst. I did reviews of all of these with oh, wait, that's right, huh. Well, guess I might be redoing those at some point. Oh, and look at that! Another series that was left on a cliffhanger! Remember how I said that would be a pattern? Yeah, I wasn't kidding. I mean, let's think here. We've gotten Black Yoshi's Family, which didn't even start. We've got Luigi's Mansion left on a cliffhanger. Mario and Luigi's Stupid and Dumb Adventure Season 3. And now this! Yeah, we'll discuss what happened in a bit here. So, this was supposed to be the successor to Bowser Jr.'s Summer School. The problem? Well, it wasn't nearly as good as the older series it was based upon. But hey, you could thank me for the ending of the series! Yeah, I came up with the ending of the school burning down, with the joke being that someone makes the sun, but since the sun is supposed to be hot, they set their project on fire to more closely emulate the sun. There was more to my idea, such as there being a police chase involving Mr. Winkle, but that obviously never came about. But at least this series was finished! You are welcome, by the way. The series was finished so abruptly though, due to Logan losing access to the school area. Even though I think more could have been done, it's okay enough. And then the whole school series concept merged into other videos to just become videos that happen to take place at the school, in part or most of the video. I guess that's a fair compromise as opposed to something like Bowser Jr.'s second grade being started, then just postponed forever. That all being said, this series was kinda all over the place. For starters, there was the abrupt ending. Then the teachers. We had Mario's grandpa, then we had Mr. Winkle, who was then arrested, so he got Jackie Chu, only to go back to Mr. Winkle? I mean, okay. Also, I didn't like the lack of human characters in this series, or for that matter, the other characters in general. Most of them were fairly forgettable. Some barely even got to speak before they were thrown away for the rest of the series. Overall, this series was only kinda okay. Now, there were other series in this era, such as Bowser Jr.'s Game Night, but I don't think that counts, especially since it doesn't have an overarching story, instead just being Junior Joseph and Cody playing board games. So let's discuss why this is called the Junior Era. Because it's almost all Junior! There would sometimes be long stretches of a ton of Junior videos. In fact, this era was mostly Junior videos. The best example of this has to be Bowser Jr.'s Big Mess, all the way through Pokemon Part 4, where there's a small break, and then nope, more Junior now! Even if the video title didn't say it was a Junior video, chances were pretty good Junior would be the main character anyways. And Junior was such an annoying brat, too.
No, I want a Happy Meal from McDonald's!
Look, you need to start eating a little healthier. How about like a celery stick with some peanut butter?
No! Take me to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal! I want a Happy Meal! You better take me to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal!
Oh, and don't get me started on the Bowser Jr. goes to blank videos. Put simply, these were videos where Junior would just go somewhere, like an amusement park or Disney World, and just mess around the entire video. The Disney World videos, which there were only 2 of, were still in total over an hour long. There were slight hints of a story in there, which is more than what could be said for other Bowser Jr. Goes To videos, but that's it. Oh, and let's talk about what happened to the series videos. During the Junior era, Logan moved into the apartment, and I don't know why he quit most of the series once he moved. I guess he just didn't know how to continue them now that it was in a different location, or he was busy making Junior videos. I mean, he managed to handle the change in Luigi's mansion fairly well, but then that series just kinda stopped, so I really don't know. Now, don't get me wrong, not all the Junior videos were bad. Some were actually pretty good, but there were still so many of them, and so many were mediocre or just flat out bad. Now, there is something interesting to note here. This era, in part due to how many Junior videos there were, was when I started reviewing SML videos, with Bowser Jr.'s 6th birthday, where I complained about how dumb that video was, the jokes in it, screwball, etc. Man, that review needs to be updated. But wait, I'm getting off track here. Let's get to the conclusion. If I had to give a name for this era that isn't the Junior era, I'd probably call it the Downfall era. Things went from pretty good with the classic era to downright awful with this era. Just Junior, pretty much all the time. Oh, and this is pretty much the last era to have things that could be defined as series in them. Now, some people like to say that, given what we know about the next era, this era is actually better than the next one. To that I must say, no! Say what you want about the next era, which we'll talk about next time, but this era was, at least in certain aspects, the worst. This era also saw an influx of fans who liked Junior videos, only Junior videos, and anyone who disagreed with them was an SML hater. Sounds familiar, huh? Again, discussing that next time. Overall, this era was pretty annoying. While it did have a couple highlights, I didn't care to have to remember that this era existed. Well, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for the next SML Eras video, where things will be nearly as bad until it gets better. Don't want to spoil that too much though, so I'll leave that for next time. Thank you all for watching, and take care.